Hi, Lisa Kiffer here. Today I'm going to show you how to make this snowman runner. And this was designed by Annette Ryerson for Cut Loose Press. It is a curvy log cabin, and this is the block that we will be focusing on, and I'm going to show you how to make this with the Martelli templates. I'm going to go over a few of the things that you're going to use to make this kit, to make the runner, the snowman runner. And there's a lot of components that goes into making this. So I'm going to show you things that you're going to need and some optional things that you're going to need or that you could use to make the project go much easier for you. Now, it's not my pattern, so I'm not going to go into the sizes of the cuttings that we're going to be making everything with, but I am going to show you how I actually use the Martelli templates to make the log cabin block to make the entire snowman runner. Now, Martelli has actually put together a kit that's going to make everything so much easier for you. In that kit, you're going to get all the fabric that you're going to need to be able to make the top of the snowman runner. We're not including the batting, we're not including the backing or the binding, but we're giving you everything you need to make the top of it. We're also going to give you the templates for the top hat. If you'll notice on the picture, the top hat is a little bit different. We decided to use our own Martelli top hat for that. So that's what we're using here. We've got our templates for the Martelli top hat, and I think this was the St. Patty's Day hat, so you could use it for any kind of different things. We've also included we made a template for the snowman nose, and we also have made a small little holly leaf that's in here. The second items that you're going to be in the kit besides the fabric is you're going to have these three templates. These are the templates that you're going to be using to make your curvy log cabin. I've got a 4-inch, a 6 1/4, and 8 1/2-inch blocks. So you're going to need, that's going to be in the kit. The fabric, these templates, and the top hat and the squares. Now, some other things that's not going to be in the kit, but you really will need, of course, is your rotary cutters, some scissors. You are going to need this is the best press, some starch, some clear starch or sizing alternative. Because this is narrower strips and you're doing a lot of sewing and you have to do a lot of folding, you want to lay crisp and flat, I do recommend getting the best press or some sort of a starch spray that you can prepare your fabric with, because every bit of the fabric I want you, the backing, the red and the white, you're going to starch it and iron it before you do any of your cutting. I also have some parchment paper. You're going to need the parchment paper, and if you're going to be fusing it, that's why you'll need it, because you're going to need to have some Wonder Under, or you can get the Bolso Splendid Web, but you're going to need some sort of fusible glue so that you would be able to adhere your top hat and the face to your snowman so that you can applique it and sew it down. Some other items that I've used that's not in the kit is the new Martelli Seam Assist. This was amazing because there's actually some pressing open of some seams that I do here in the middle, and this was a wonderful tool, and this is one of the newer products that Martelli has. And another item that I found quite useful was the Martelli chip markers. And I got the 100 blanks here, which comes also with the Martelli mechanical fabric pencil, and I used it with the white. And I'm going to also show you the design board, and this was a perfect application to use those chips to mark my pieces, and then to be able to use the design board with that get-a-grip on here so it doesn't go flying. And I had these all stacked up because you're going to start here and you actually work all the 1s, and then you're going to go around to the 2s, and then you'll go around to the 3s. So when I get to making the block, this will further help you understand what it is I'm doing. But I can have all of my fabrics in here and all of them marked so I don't lose my place in case I have to walk away and then come back. I know where I'm at. So this was an amazing tool to use for this application. Of course, you're going to need an iron, not only a regular iron, but if it's good, if you have like a smaller iron that you could have beside you so that you can just quickly press each seam as you're going. So that's all the things that I can think of that you're going to need. There might be something else I might mention a little bit later, but this was a very fun project, and you can literally get it done probably in a weekend. So I just want to mention a couple more things before we go right into sewing. You got to do your prep work. One of the biggest things that's in the prep work is be sure to starch your fabrics. So when you get your fabrics, just lay them out on your ironing board and starch them really good. I mean, spray them really good, and then just iron them nice and dry and nice and flat. And I also need to say that there's actually going to be 2 different colors of red, so the colors might vary in your kit. I think this is going to be the main one, like in the sample I had made, this real pretty red with the snowman, with the snowflakes on here. But then I also am working with the one I'm also doing on the demonstration for you, is this really deeper red with some verbiage on it. So you could get one or the other of the red kits. Again, it has all the fabrics in it, all the templates in it, plus the written instructions. Now, I'm not going to give you the actual cutting instructions to make it. It's going to be on your pattern when you get it. So just be sure to lay out your fabrics, get it nice pressed so it's nice and crisp, and then just go ahead and start getting all your cutting. Follow the instructions as it tells you on how to do each cuts of all your strips, and then once you get your strips cut, then you're going to do your sub-cutting. So then you're going to, and I'm using the design board as I did my sub-cutting. I had them all stacked up on here and labeled so that I knew where I needed to start and as I worked my way around. So that's what you're going to need to get started. You're going to actually make 4 of these blocks, and when they get finished, they measure 8.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and tell you that it is 8.5 inches because the templates are 4, 6 1/4, and it finishes off at 8.5, and then you'll be putting those all together, adding some more strip pieces to it so that you can finish up your top. And then once you get your 2 pieces together, your 2 snowman heads done, then the next step would be cutting out your pieces for your applique, and then laying them out, ironing them down, and then appliquing them down. And here's just some of the different color threads that I had chose to do my applique process. And once you got that done, you've got your top done, then you can continue to move forward to making the rest, but we're not going to go into that. So I guess next we're going to go ahead and go to the sewing machine, and I'm going to start the process of making my rounds for each section of the curvy log cabin block. And again, this is a block that you'll be able to use for other things besides this. Instead of having this larger snowman, you could stop at the 6 1/4 and make placemats with it. So it could be a little bit smaller just based on where you want to start and stop at. All right, so let's go and we'll start sewing. All right, so again, here's the block we're going to be making. This is your center, and you're going to work your way around. So it's just going around and around, and as you go around each section, you're going to be trimming it after you do your first round. But after every seam, I press it. And I can't stress the importance of how it is to press each time you finish a side. And I also have me a little bottle of Best Press right beside me so I can press it and make it flat, because I want my block to lay nice and crisp and flat. And another hint is don't stretch your pieces to get them to line up, because you're going to find that the pieces are a little bit longer, particularly when you're going around the second half of your round. Just lay it on there, kind of even it out, and you'll see when I get there, because you're going to be trimming it off anyway. Just make sure that you have your perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance, because that's important, and have it at a short stitch length because you are going to be cutting as you're going around. Don't stretch or pull on your pieces as you're thinking you need to get them lined up perfectly, and just be sure to press each seam as you go around. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm at the end here. I'm doing my number 8 block. And this is another one of those great projects that's perfect for chain piecing. So if you have all of your pieces cut out, you know, just take your centerpiece and your 1A and just sew all those, press them open, then add the second block to it and sew all those. So this is a great project for chain piecing. So I'm just getting my 2 pieces and I'm just lining up my edges, and I'm going to go ahead and start sewing. Again, I've got it 1/4 inch. I actually put the 1/4 inch foot on here, and it's at 1.80, so it's a pretty tight seam. On the very first one, I press on the dark side and then just push it and let it go back. And because I also want that to be nice and flat, take the time and just give it a little spritz and just hold it on there. So the second one is going to be attaching it right here. So you're going to take your next piece and you're always going to start on the one that you just ended. So I'm going to just match up my tops, edges here, and then just sew all the way down. I also like to, before I press it back, I like to set my seam and then roll it back. Now from here, you're just always going to be pressing away. So I know we're used to always sewing or pressing to the dark side, but this one you're just going to as you're working around, you're just going to press away. Since I sewed here and then I sewed this one on, so now I'm going to turn, I'm going to start here, and now I'm going to start with my red. So I just finished B, so now I'm going to go to C. Now it's your preference. If you just want to fold it back and do a finger press, you can do that, but I have found I really like taking the time, just set my seam, give it a little spritz. It just seemed like my block just laid a little bit flatter by taking the time to just press each seam. I'm not forcing the press, I'm just pushing it back and then laying the fabric down and letting the iron dry it out. So now this one is going to be our 4th one, and this will be the end of round 1. Set my seam and then just roll it back. Okay, so now the next step, once you get with round 1, now we're going to go ahead and do our trimming for round 1. So I've got in your kit, you're going to have your 4-inch block, it's your square, It comes with a fussy cut window, but I don't think the fussy cut window worked very well for me. I found it easier just to take the 4-inch square. I have my block laid in front of me, and I'm just going to center this square on here. And what I'm looking for is about the even amount that I'm going to be trimming off all the way around. So I'm just kind of making sure I'm taking off about 1/4 of an inch all the way around on all 4 sides. I'm just making sure that it's even all the way around. And then you're just going to trim it up. Now, I've been saving all these little bitty pieces, and I got a whole pile of them. What I like to do with all these, and these are just pretty, they're pretty red, and the sparkle on here with the glitter. If you get a whole bunch of these and put them in one of those clear ornaments, this would be a beautiful little ornament to put on your tree. So I've been saving all my little slivers. So we're done with round 4, so there's your block. That's the start. So now we're going to start round 2. And it's just repeating the process. Going to do a round and then we'll trim it again. So we start where we left off. We had sewed this one last, so this is where my white piece is going to go. My mat up back on here, set my seam and roll it back. You see it's kind of over just a little bit right here. That's going to be, I'm just going to lay this up here, kind of let that overhang just a little bit. And I'm going to line up with the seam that's more even on this edge, because that's all going to be trimmed off. Making it nice and even. All right, so this basically is ending the second round. And you could stop right here, like I said, if you wanted to just do the 2 rounds instead of the 3. You could make smaller snowmen for like for a table, I don't know, like a table setting. Instead of a table runner, it could be a placemat. You just need to have 4 of the same size. Okay, so I've got those done. I'm going to set my iron top away aside, and I'm grabbing the next block, which is now the 6 1/4. And as I did the 4-inch one, I'm going to lay this down just like that. I'm just going to kind of center it on here, looking to be about the same amount that I'm going to be trimming all the way around. And depending on your seam allowance, it could be more, it could be less. I think I'm just using the 1/4 inch that's right here on this machine. But you want to make sure that you're doing just about the same amount all the way around. And I just love these Martelli templates because I can just spin them and nothing's going to shift on me. And I'm also using the round, if I wanted to just turn the whole cutting table, I'm actually using the roundabout today also. Okay, so here it is, second round. Now we're going to go ahead and do our final round. Starting where I had left off, grabbing row 3, block A. And real-life sewing, hold on. Needle came in threaded. No stretching or pulling, just let the machine guide your thread fabrics through. Two more sides to go. I only have 2 more blocks to go. There it is. Now we're going to go ahead and get it trimmed to that final size. The last size is our 8.5-inch square. And as we did before, I'm just going to center this on the block. It seems to be about 1/4 inch that you're looking to trim off all the way around. And just kind of make it even on all 4 sides. All right. The next step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be sewing our 4 finished blocks together. So you're just going to kind of, I just like to lay them out, making sure everything just lines up nice and pretty. And these are our 4 pieces. So I'm going to sew like I'm doing a large 4 patch. I'm going to sew 2 in this one, and then I'm going to put those together for 2. Now the seams here don't nest. So if you want to go ahead and get it to feel like it's nesting, you can do that, but it's going to kind of feel like a big bump right there. So you're going to just start at the edge, get them to where they match up pretty close, and then just sew all the way to the end. And being that they were cut, they're going to be the same size. Here they both are. I've got that little connecting thread right there because I chain pieced it. And I'm just going to open them up and open this one up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press this one to, I'm going to finger press this one to the right. Just give it a good finger press. And then I'm going to finger press this one to the left. That way I can get them to nest. I usually go ahead and clip this little thread right here because I like to open up that square, and I'll show you that when we do that too. So just match up your edges and your seams and sew it all the way down. here we go. Got it all sewed. All the seams matched up, even the tops here, and then on the back side we're going to take this to the ironing table. We're going to iron it, but I like to pop open this seam right here, so I just kind of push it in the opposite directions so it'll lay nice and flat and you get this pretty little square there in the middle. This seam's going to the left, one's going to the right, just like that. So you see we'll have this cute little thing. It'll lay nice and flat for your table runner. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this ironed up, and then we're going to start the next step. Okay, so you take your two pieces that you've sewed all four together, and you've got your two snowman head, and you're just going to go ahead and just iron them nice and flat. If you need to touch them up with a little bit of starch, go ahead and do that. You just want them to be nice and flat. Now the two pieces, there is a section that's in between them, and I'm going to show you with one that I finished. There's like 7 strips that you'll be cutting out and sewing together. And if I can show you on the back side, there's the 7 pieces that you're going to be sewing and attaching. You're going to be sewing 7 strips in between these 2 blocks. You'll be sewing a long strip down each side of the snowman table runner, and then you'll be finishing up with another strip that's on each end. And in the instructions, it has all the cutting instructions for you to do that. So I'm going to show you how I was able to make these really easy, crisp, pressed open seams by using the Martelli Seam Assist. So you're going to take all of your strips, and I found it easier just to go ahead and just sew them together. So here's 3 of them I got sewed together. Here's 4 of them that got sewed together. I got one more stitch to do. But I'm going to show you with the Seam Assist how easy it is to be able to get those seams to just pop open. So you can get it as a set of 2, or you can get just the single. I've just got the set of the 2. And you're just going to take your piece that you've sewn, and you need to press open those seams. I mean, the instruction doesn't say anything about pressing open the seams. I just felt like it would lay flatter if I did that. So then you just take it, and you're going to lay that seam right there on the edge of this yellow piece that's right here. It's got some of this same Martelli yellow fabric in it, and it's got the no slip material, and it kind of just gives it a little bit of a cushion. But what seems to make these seams pop open as you're ironing is just gravity, I guess, as the fabric is on both sides. So I'm going to slide it down. I'm going to just take my iron. I'm just going to open it up just a little bit. And as I go, it just opens it up. Because I'm not having to fight it. I'm not having to hold it as I go. Just be sure to keep it right there on that edge. And then it just opens it nice and flat for you. And then here's one I haven't even started yet. Here's the section of 3. So I just got it on here. I'm just making sure the seam is just lading onto this very top part. I started off by just opening it up just a little bit. And just sliding it down. And then one more, and then we got to sew that last strip together. So I'll get that last strip sewed together, and then we're going to attach it to connect the 2 snowman pieces together. And the seam assist, you can get longer pieces, or you can add to it. It's like a puzzle on both ends. So if you need it to be longer, or if you just maybe opening up short seams. But look how nice and crisp those are. How easy they just opened right up. And I'm going to go ahead and hit them with some press. So just give a little bit of starch on here and just finish the deal. So they'll lay nice and flat. And I'll be right back. I'm going to get these last two pieces sewed together, and then I'm going to show you how we attach it to the snowman. Set these aside. So you're just going to take your middle piece and you're just going to attach it to one side, and then you're going to attach this to the other side. And then you're going to sew once you get all three of these pieces together, be sure to press your seam open. Well, yeah. I don't know if I'm going to press it open. I think I'm going to press it. Yeah, I think I pressed it open. You press it open, and then you're going to have this long piece that you've cut. You're going to place one on one side, and you're going to have the other one that you've cut, and it's going to go on the other side. And then you've got the two pieces that are going to go on each end. And that's going to finish the top. And then the last thing is the applique. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get all these pieces sewed together. And then we'll have finished top, and then we'll be doing our the top hat. And if you wanted to use pins or clips to kind of hold everything in place, you're very welcome to use those too. Trying to think if no, those seams I did not press open. I just let them press back. Now you're going to put your long pieces on each side. You'll have 2 of them. And again, I didn't measure them or anything. I just cut off my selvage off the edge. And laid it in the direction I want it to go. And again, this is one of those things where don't stretch or pull, just let the machine just pull it through. That way it lays nice and flat. Looks like it wobbled. It's not. All right, so you're going to need to trim off those pieces at the end and then add your other 2 pieces, and then you'll have your top part done before we applique. Okay, so I just trimmed off the excess off of each of the side pieces, and I went ahead and pressed them back, and I just rolled it back. Last thing is 2 more pieces, and they're on each end. And I believe these are already cut to size, so I don't know if there's going to be much trimming. They should just line right up. Well, there'll be a little bit. So just get these sewed down and then we'll start with the next step. Thread today. All right, so now we're going to go back to the ironing table and we're going to lay out how I would lay out the pieces for your applique. So here are all the pieces to our top hat. You got your brim, you got your brim, you got your actually hat piece, and this is like a band that goes around the hat piece. You can make it long like this. If you wanted it to be shorter, you could just bring it in like that. So it could be whatever size you want it to be. And then this here is the very top of the hat. The reason why we had designed it that way is because if you wanted to have it look like there was a lid coming out of the hat, like for the 4th of July, or how I had done the St. Patty's Day with the rainbow coming out of the hat. Now there's a couple other pieces with the top hat template. You're going to see that there's 2 rectangles in there. It was designed for a buckle and then another piece for the inside of the belt for the buckle, but we're only using the larger rectangle. That larger rectangle is going to be the eyes for your snowman, and then you got your template for your nose. So you're going to need to cut out 2 of each of these pieces. We provided you with this blue-gray, so that is for your band that goes around the hat. The black is for the 3 pieces of your hat and for the eyes. So you got to cut out 4 of them. You got the orange, cut out 2 for your noses. And I think you got some green, and that is for the holly. So you're going to need to cut out 4 of the holly. Now I'm going to go ahead, I've already pre-cut these, but I'm going to show you what I've done. I put the fusible on the back, got the paper still on here. I think I'll show you the holly because that's like so tiny, and you've got 2 options for cutting out the holly. You can trace it on here and like trace it on the back, and then you can just cut it out with scissors, or you can use our rotary cutter. What I had done was I just cut off like a rectangle piece. I didn't need this huge piece that you're going to get in your kit. So I don't need a whole lot. So here's just about all that I've set aside to do that cutting with. And I'm not making it exact because it doesn't have to be exactly like the other one. So I just got my 28mm rotary cutter here, and I'm just kind of curving in. I'm just kind of following it. Maybe I might be a little bit bigger than what the actual template is, but I'm just curving as I go around with my 28mm. And there's my holly. And you got to have 4 of those, so I'll just go ahead and cut out another one. Now, like I'll show you if I was to trace it. I mean, if I was to trace it, I would just have my pen and I would just trace it on the back side. There we go. So trace it on the paper side. We've been working on coming up with some traceable templates and just kind of loosely follow that around. I mean, it's not rocket science for little holly, and then you are going to do a stitch over top of it. So don't beat yourself up if you're not right there on the lines, because it looks pretty darn good from the other side. So you're going to need 4 of the holly, and this project works really well if you do use a 28mm for cutting out some of these pieces. So you have to have the brim, you got to have 2 of the brim. So you just set your brim, or excuse me, not the brim, but this is actually the band. Just cut off a section of it because you don't need the whole piece. And then just cut around it. Now the different stitches that you can use, well, our machines have lots of them. You could do a regular zigzag stitch. You can do a blanket stitch. You can do, there's actually one called an applique stitch, a satin stitch. So there's the brim. So here's what I've done for, excuse me, that's not the brim, that is the band. And then you're going to cut out these here, so the other 2 pieces in the hat. And then the nose. Nose is pretty easy. Again, he's got these tight curves in here, so I just had my nose on here and I just kind of went around it. Didn't make it where it had to be exactly like it. Another one of those items, if you want to just trace it, you could trace it. And then you got your nose. I'm going to set the rest of these aside. I'm going to show you how I worked on laying these out. A little bit of OCD in me wanted it to be exactly like the other, but it doesn't have to necessarily be that way. In the photo you see that you're going to be looking at, you'll see that it's got a larger brim, bigger hat and everything. So I just sort of set it on the side. I just decided which one I wanted to work on. So if I wanted it to be this one, what I'm trying to do is make sure I cover this corner here. And I brought it down a little bit, and I kind of went like corner to corner, here to here. This section of the block is what's covered up, because what's next here is my band. So I want my band to fit down in here. So I have the band here. I lay everything out before I go. That was not cut very good. I'm going to get this one here. When I lay it in, I'm just wanting to make sure I got all that white covered up. I don't want any of the snowman peeking through on the hat. And then this part of the hat goes here. Now if you want it to be that big, you could have it that big, or if you wanted to tuck it under, you could tuck it under and have it a little bit shorter hat. I kind of did in the middle. Didn't have it quite as all the way up to the top, but I kind of did it like this. Then I had my little piece. I guess I didn't cut one of those. So the little black piece would be right here. And then I kind of lay everything out to see how I wanted it to look. Now you're also going to get some red, you're going to have some leftover red fabric. So you'll put the fusible on that red, and I just cut out little circles to make little berries. but the pattern actually has you using like little red buttons. So you can use little red buttons, or you can use the fabric that you have and just cut you out a little round circle to put right there. Or you can put whatever you want on it. So that's how I pretty much laid out how I wanted my hat to look. And then the last part was figuring out, okay, where do I want my eyes and nose? So knowing that this is center and seeing that this is actually off center. So it's your preference. You can put the eyes anywhere you want them to be. I mean, if you want them close together, if you want them further apart, it's wherever you want them. And if you'll see on my sample, I did something a little different. David actually had suggested it. Instead of it just using the squares, I just kind of knocked off the corners and kind of gave it more of an odd shaped charcoal look to it. So that's what I did there, just kind of knocked off the corners, or you could have them in there, but you could put them in there. And then the nose, if you'll notice, the nose kind of goes off center and kind of angled up. So here would be my eyes. Knowing that this is center line here, have it a little bit off, and then the nose was kind of going off center, kind of like that. So then when you do your mouth, what I had done was I took a pencil, and lightly drew the circle. I lightly drew a line, and I started at one point. I marked my 2 points, and then I just did my light line. Then how I did this piece right here talks about embroidery with hand. What I did was I got some black thread and I just did a single stitch all the way there. And I just did a smooth, even single stitch. And then I put my machine on a tight zigzag, very small, very tight, and I just zigzagged over top of that stitch. And it actually has some little bit of definition there. It's got some, you can actually feel it looks really good. And so once you get all of these pieces appliqued down, you've got your whole top done. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Again, you're either going to get this red or you're going to get this red, and there's actually 2 different colors of the fairy frost too. There's this one, and then there's a little bit one that's actually a little bit more silvery, but they're both the sparkly. So I hope you enjoyed our tutorial on the Snowman runner. Again, this is by Cut Loose Press, and it was designed by Annette Ryerson. And again, you're going to get the kit, which is going to be all the templates that you need to make each square for the curvy log cabin, all the templates to make the face for your snowman, which is going to be your nose, your eyes, and the top hat. And I think, and I'm not even sure, but I think we got the, we're going to try to include the fusible. If it's not in the fusible, I'm not sure if we're having that in there, but let me say, you can fuse with anything. You can even fuse with basting spray. You can even just pin it down to applique all of your pieces. But I hope you enjoyed this kit. It's a lot of fun. I think it'll be a great keepsake for your family. Thank you so much. Be sure to see us at martellinotions.com. This is Lisa Gifford. If you have any questions, please email me at quiltingwithlisa@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.